agenda, marina discussion. I put let's call it a laundry list of items together of different things that I had heard and issues raised. So rather than doing a formal report, we put together a bunch of items, and I'm just going to kind of go through this, but it certainly is an opportunity for anybody to raise any other issues or ask any other questions. The first thing I had was marine discussion, including marina manager status. So just to make sure everybody's on board and knew about this, Nick did depart. He did resign from his position as marina manager. He did have a very good experience. I had an opportunity to talk with him, as did others, and I know he had a really good experience in Sheboygan. He will be missed, but he went on to other things that fit better with him. Wisconsin is a cold month for a Florida guy, a cold winter for a Florida guy, and so we certainly understand that he decided to move on. But he had some good experience, gave some good feedback, and Travis, do you want to just give a quick touch on the status of securing a new marina manager, steps we're going through?
Yeah, so out of the application pool, it was narrowed down to 3 candidates, and right now we're trying to schedule meetings. I believe we're looking at 14th maybe, or the 20th and the 21st. So very near future, we will have some interviews scheduled for 3 candidates.
So certainly by the next time
Yes.
we have a meeting, we will have had a marina manager hired and already in place. And I think the goal is to have a marina manager in place before the season really starts up, because Travis is spending way too much time on the water at the marina, taking care of business down there when we don't have somebody else doing it. So, so that's the first thing. Again, we will be hiring a new person in the position of marina manager. Next, we don't have a specific report for the marina as far as I know. Edgewater Resources next step. As you may have recalled, Edgewater Resources did a community engagement session, then went back to do some planning, and then was going to come back to the city around February. And do you have a rough idea of about where they're at or where they're coming back?
Yes, so I believe we have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks. The internal steering committee with Edgewater to go over some adjustments they made to some of the concept layouts based upon the community input, staff input, and other members throughout the community. So 2 weeks, I believe it is, yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
They were gonna have an open house, again, another one that got canceled. I think there was some conflicting dates with the city.
Yeah, the one that was going to be in February.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, and so the internal steering group meeting is going to look at matters first, and then I think it's Edgewater Resources plan then to do another community engagement. So the February one is coming after that. We don't know exactly when.
Right.
But and my understanding, and again, I am not in the internal steering group, but my understanding is that there is a good desire to make sure that what we present next to the community is something that feels very comfortable for the city, for the engineering, to make sure, again, that we've kind of checked off the boxes to make sure that it's an appropriate plan, rather than having something that doesn't quite fit with the criteria. Is that a fair?
That's very fair, yep.
Okay. So again, going a little slower, but we gotta get it right. Any other questions? So certainly slower turnaround time, but again, emphasis on quality of what we put together to make sure that it's financially gonna work. Winter boat storage, just again, another comment. I know that there is a continuing concern about making sure that we have a place for winter boat storage. That still is in discussion and still being worked on. Nothing to report formally, but again, it is a priority concern. MOLO fee system and receipt of usage fees. I got a bunch of comments, and I think Eric, you did too, from members of the public concerned about our realization rate for people who are using the day pass or the docks or the ramps, which is coming from the MOLO use on the launch sites, the 2 launch sites. And Eric, did you want to touch on that, or?
I'm just not aware of if the system is up and running, if it's running reliably. I know last year there was lots of complaints that people had trouble interfacing with it on a daily usage manner.
All I can say is since I've done this, we have had between online and the QR codes at the launch sites, we've had a number of reservations that seem to go through fairly well. The only issue we had, it was an internal one with MOLO, which has been rectified. It was just the way that the payment was getting categorized within the system. So what it would lead to is when we were closing out to make it a final, make the payment final, it was actually double. It was issuing a secondary invoice, like double charging them. And I've gone through in communications with MOLO themselves. We've been able to clear that up, figure out what happened, and now everybody that has happened to has been issued a refund. But as far as the app, the QR code working, we've gotten a number of them via that realm.
So I did, at the primary launch site next to the fuel dock, I did, just as a test this weekend, go up and try to see the QR code. I didn't get too far into it because I didn't want to get charged or pay for it just walking by.
I can make this.
But I did start to go through the process and see, just from a perception standpoint, about doing that. The challenge that so if everybody's honest and if everybody goes ahead and does that, I think it works. The problem is if somebody decides that they don't want to pay, there's no way without pretty extensive review of seeing who has and has not paid, right? Or how does that work?
No, if in the system, it'll show, well, you can't finalize a purchase without paying for it. So you can't get a launch pass without having paid.
Is it print off, or is it something that you put
No,
in your
you
window?
gotta, you physically come in to pick up the launch pass, or it gets mailed out. So that's the only 2 ways to get the launch pass.
Even the daily ones?
So the daily one would be the different one, the difference. But if I have an annual launch pass, right, then I'm less concerned about that because then I'm gonna have that on my dashboard, or?
The annual?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have it in the vehicle. It was on the trailers, unless you can make sure you're not gonna lose it. If you put it on the trailer, you can, but the problem that I understood from Nick is people got different boats or whatever
Yeah.
season, and they had
So
a
if they
different
just
trailer.
have that
and
launch
so
pass
keep
with
it in the
them,
vehicle.
they keep it with the vehicle, but I don't know that we're necessarily checking for like a day pass. We wouldn't know if somebody did or didn't buy that day pass.
Right.
So that I think was the
That's
question that we
Is
got
it so it's
asked.
the daily?
Yeah, that seems like an
Yeah.
issue.
So,
I've never interfaced with the system, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge, but
Yeah, I
again,
haven't heard the concerns.
well, the concern is just we want to make sure that people are paying the revenues coming in.
Right.
And I think, again, from what I recall is it just takes a lot of effort with somebody who has access to MOLO to just be able to check those day passes. And you're not, you haven't heard of anything about issuing tickets or fine violations or anything else? And-
Do we have a policy for that, Mr. Chair?
Pardon me?
Is there a policy, is there a fine?
I assume that there is a fine, I don't know what it is. So this is kind of a long-term thing that not something that I was necessarily putting on the agenda to hope that we get solved tonight, but just, I think there's a community desire, including among voters, to make sure everybody's paying their fair share. So we wanna just kind of monitor this and then, you know, find out, let's report back by the next meeting with, and I'll try to get some information as well, what the fine violation is to make sure that it's hefty enough that people are compliant.
So who is doing the monitoring?
And who's doing the monitoring.
And that's the most important thing, so the arena manager.
It would have been the arena
Nick was
manager
doing it,
before,
yeah.
because, yeah, we would have no access to
Yeah.
the molos, since I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know Nick had been doing it before, but then I don't know in terms of enforcement where it goes beyond that. So I just wanna make sure that from a, operational standpoint, we're doing everything we can to realize as much revenue that is owed, for operations as possible.
And Mr. Chair, I think also, and I don't know how the program works, but it would be interesting to know, do you have to put in like your license number or something?
Yes.
So to get that data of how many folks are local and how many folks are coming from out of state or something, you know, with the county boat landings, we kind of looked at that in terms of pricing as well. Or just usage, I mean, that data is just interesting to have of who's using the landings, and yeah, obviously then it goes back to fixing the landings, so.
So again, something to kind of keep on the agenda, keep looking at. Obviously, there are lots of other high priority matters as well, but long-term realization rate, again, we wanna make sure we're pulling in all the revenue that we can.
Yeah, and I don't wanna see it get to be like, people are honest up into a point. The honest ones will pay. Eventually, they'll start to erode if they see too many people not paying. They'll be like, why should I pay if they're not
Right.
paying? I've
Yeah.
seen it too many times and nobody's policing, and next thing you know, daily passes are way down.
Yeah. Okay.
And the parking lot is full.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Which has been a problem. And last year, the parking lot was full a lot. So there's heavy usage, which is a good thing.
That money.
Okay, then we'll just kind of keep that on an area of concern. Staff hours, Travis, can you just report on the hours that you established? And I will say that Travis and I did talk about the hours of operation for the marina. My goal was to try to appropriately staff for the season that we're in, so that we're not adding too much expense early on, which doesn't make sense for the, for the need of operations. And I don't wanna blow our labor costs early on, so.
And plus based upon the actual staff that we have. Because not only are we still looking for a marina manager, we're still in the process of trying to hire dock hands. So right now, the staff consists of myself and Mark Erdman, who's our maintenance foreman down there. So we're running as best we can with what we got. But, so right now the hours of operation, it's basically Monday through Thursday, basically 8 to 4 throughout the week. Saturday, we're trying to do a noon to 4 and a Sunday noon to 2. The problem we have is with only 2 staff, it's very hard. Like this coming weekend is Mother's Day weekend, and I think both Mark and I would be finding a place to sleep on the curb if we weren't around for our spouses and whatnot. So the goal is by after May 22nd is to have it back to more of those full functioning hours, and like Peter said, we had talked about that, and that would be Monday through Thursday 8 to 4, Friday, Saturday 10 to 6, and then Sunday 10 to 4 was the plan right now, because the thought was it used to be open till 8. But most of the boaters, my understanding is their activity, if they're coming in or whatnot, they're coming in for dinner and whatnot, they're in 5 before 6. So there's not a whole lot of need to have the staff the extra hours. And besides that, then it's a 10-hour day, and then we have to find coverage between splitting dock hands and staffing to make sure we have that coverage. So going forward, the goal is to be able to do that after May 22nd, so right before Memorial Day weekend. That's the plan. We're not setting that in stone because it all depends on what happens with interviews and how quickly we can have additional staff on board.
So, and if I can just comment, I mean, we've had a lot of extensive conversation about this. I would like to see Friday and Saturdays, if we can, you know, move to 8 o'clock even at shortchanging some of the, during the week, if there's a necessity for that. And I believe there is a necessity for it, but we'll see, and we've gotta have the staffing. So one of the problems with the dock hands or dock attendants is if they're under age 18, they have to be supervised. So we really then need to have an adult there already, in addition to the dock hand or dock attendant. So it doesn't benefit us to have only under 18-year-old dock hands or dock attendants in terms of hours of coverage. But again, if we have the right staffing for it, it would be nice to be able to push to that 8 o'clock, because again, from an income standpoint, I don't want to see people arriving between 6 and 8 o'clock at night and then taking off in the early morning hours and not paying their transient fees.
And there definitely was some of that.
I do remember, Mr. Chair, that Nick kind of talked about that, and I forget the report, that people really appreciated the 8 o'clock time.
I think it'll matter on, especially on some key weekends. And we can, point those weekends out, but I think, we had anticipated that 6 to 8 PM on Friday and Saturdays would generate enough income to make it worthwhile to do that. Nick, again, my recollection is Nick was not confident that was the case, but then as the season wore on, he saw that to be the case. Again, we gotta roll with this for the staffing that we've got, and appreciate all that Travis and Mark are doing to obtain coverage of the hours. Dean?
Though, in the past, we've always had college, college kids coming in, working over the summer, for summer jobs, most of the time. So they were, they were in that 18-year-old group.
That's first choice, but I think if we can't find enough of the college age, then certainly having younger. Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, we have not had anybody out of high school.
Yeah.
apply. So there are no returners.
The seasonal pool seems to be getting younger.
Yes.
Right? We used to be college
smaller.
kids, it's all high school kids.
Is the regulation for them being supervised on age of 18 a state regulation or state policy? What's that?
I think it's both.
Any questions, comments?
I guess going back to the hours and MOLO, I was not clear on how do transients make their reservation? Is that through the mobile app?
Either. They can make a reservation through MOLO, or they can call
Okay.
directly.
So if they make it on MOLO, say day of after 6 PM, they will pay through that app. I think sometimes last year, people had already made their reservation via the telephone and then showed up after staff was gone with money in hand, but nobody to take it. So do we maybe have policies in place, like, checking if they're gonna make a phone reservation, are you gonna come after 6 PM if that's where we're cutting off? Then just make them make the reservation online so that we can capture the revenue, because they're not gonna pay ahead of time, is my understanding, if they call on the phone.
The goal would be to have everything pay online.
Yeah, okay.
Or else you can't get into it. So that would be personal preference. I think it's proven to be a industry-wide preferred method now, because the exchange of cash is minimalized. You don't have to worry worry about it, everything's online, so if you don't have somebody in the office, it's not a big deal. That would be the goal. There's a lot of transitions going on.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes.
And Eric, just so everybody knows, Eric is a marina rep, so he has a boat in the slip, so Saturdays and Sundays, he's gonna make sure everybody pays, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been times where I've been faced with people, like, literally, they just pulled in without a reservation, assuming they could get one, and they were kinda right, there's space available, but nobody to pay, and, nobody to give them access to the facilities either. And again, key weekends is a big thing, it was more on certain weekends than others.
Okay, again, something that's evolving, continuing on, survey. In the past, the marina had annual surveys with slip holders to just check and kind of do some quality control, quality review. Eric and I had talked just a little bit about the idea of trying to have something in the nature of a survey that we send out just to continue that process. It's probably been 3 years since we've done anything by way of a survey. Again, not to overdo it, not to make it too big of a deal, but I think it sends a good signal to slip holders as our customers that we care about them and we care what they have to say. Engaging with them is probably prudent. So is that something that, Travis, I know you have so many things that you're working on. Is that something that as we have time, you're willing to work with? And again, once we get a marina manager, you know, it might be helpful for a new marina manager to have some information, if we can do that. But so Eric had sent me some notes on some questions that we might want to consider. We'll take that a little bit further, and again, as time evolves, it's not my intent to just push something through on a survey and have it incomplete or inaccurate or not have anybody care about the results. But again, it's always helpful to get information as we're feedback.
If you're looking to do one this season, I would say I would temper your expectations of the accuracy, because obviously we're going through this transition.
Yes.
So there's going to be things that are different or may not be up to what even we would like it to be up to par. But you know, once the marina manager's on board, we have a steady work crew. You know.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the goal, and it's also, I think, helpful to know, make sure that the priorities that we see as areas of needed improvement align with what our customers are saying, you know.
Yep.
Okay, and then safety issues, problem automobile drivers in the parking lot. So last year there were some issues, and about vehicles speeding, and just a sense of danger from slip holders, our marina customers, that they felt like it wasn't being patrolled well, or it wasn't being addressed well, and whether there are things that we can do to have a sense of a safer space. And Eric, you said you heard the same thing from some other people in the marina area?
Yeah, people did have their boats boarded last year by people who got into the dock area. I think a handful of people at least are now having cameras on their boats to monitor them. But going to that scenario from years prior where we had an armed security guard at night, those are two ends of the spectrum that happen really quick, so people feel that there's a real void in security at the marina. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, did the gate to the C-Dock straight out of the building get modified during the off-season? Or am I just imagining that? It seems like
I'm not aware that
it was squared off instead of, it used to be rounded, and maybe I'm just imagining this, but even the paint and the grading is different, which is a good thing, because that makes it harder to get in. Through that C-Dock gate is primarily, I think, where people get in, because it's pretty easy to climb over. Historically, we had the gates closed, so you couldn't walk directly through the path, and that helps secure the C-Dock, but we're not doing that anymore. So yes, security on the docks at night has been a thing, especially with the fishermen who have thousands of dollars worth of equipment on. I don't know that anything actually got stolen, but it's more of, let's see if we can get on a boat, and the kids get on the boat, hang out for a minute, then they leave. But it's pretty unsettling for me.
And I was particularly asking about the vehicles in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's been an issue too. I witnessed something just in the past week. There was surfers out, so I pulled up, there's that circle by the community center. I pulled up a little bit further east, so I could just watch the surfers and be out of the way of traffic. And the speed bumps end, I forget where offhand, but they don't extend all the way to the circle. And there was a young woman on top of an SUV. I thought she at least had a sunroof that was open that she was hanging onto. She was just flat on the top of the vehicle, hanging on both ends. And they were doing laps around the circle and then going probably as far as the first set of speed bumps. And then they came back again. And I mean,
Did you call us?
I didn't. I mean, I think I spooked them when I drove through there when we left. But all of that stuff happens really quick, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been aware of some of those issues over the last couple of years. I think last year was the speed bumps. I think we had cameras down there at some point. I'm not sure if there still is on the land building.
There was a new camera put on the building.
So we direct our officers to spend time down there when we can. Obviously, we can't sit there all the time. But we are, we give our officers instructions to, set the tone. And this is the time for us to set the tone down there. So we'll have officers down there making stops.
And one of the things that concern me, or cross my mind, not concern me, but is there a way to just have no loitering allowed down there? Because that's what it is.
It's a public park, so it has public hours
Even
where people can
even the
hang out.
parking lot.
Yeah, and yeah, it's mostly teenagers who are hanging out there because there's no place else to go, or
And
that's
the
where they
speed
want to
bumps
be.
help in some ways, but I think they're finding creative uses for them as well,
Sure.
which is, it's like, what can you do next?
As teenagers try to do, right?
Right.
So, yeah, we definitely are aware, and we will continue to pay attention. But again, when things are happening, you can always call us. That's the best thing for someone to do if you see a violation occurring. Try to get a license plate, things like that. Just if we can educate everybody down there. If you see something, call us so we can.
I think part of the apprehension there is there have been people that not necessarily tried to intervene, but do just that, even as simple as capture a license plate, and they've been attacked. Like, there has been some physical altercations down there. I don't know if there was in the past year. There may have been, but I know a few years ago, somebody was attacked pretty viciously. I don't know the details on the story exactly, but I think there is a little apprehension of actually getting too interactive with those people.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm not aware of that situation. But like I said, we can't sit down there all the time, so we need the public's help to notify us when those things are happening, and even if those cars are gone or those people are gone, we can narrow down times, and it's usually mainly a similar group of kids that are down there all the time. It's not like it's extremely random. So when we can identify people and start to educate them, like I said, as summer gets busier and we're down there, we'll try to build relationships with those kids and explain why it's important that they're not doing that stuff. We've had car surfing accidents and things like that. Extremely dangerous, so.
Thank you, Chair. Have you ever had any problems with the scooters? Yeah, because
Down at the
there-
marina?
yeah, because there's a app that they can say, make sure that they can't even drive those scooters down there. They would not, so if you had problems with them, I think there's a solution. But I never,
I don't think there's any problem with
Okay.
this.
The problem you would have with that is the scooters, I think that's kind of part of one of the things, I think some of the voters, especially some of the transits, actually want the scooters down there so that they can use them. So that, eliminating that would be, more of a hindrance, I think, because I think
And I
more
don't,
for the voters
again,
themselves.
I haven't heard of anything either with respect to the use of the scooters in that land park area.
Is there a preference for non-emergency number versus 911 in that situation?
It all kind of depends on the situation. I think if you got somebody who's car surfing, that could potentially end in a serious injury or death, right?
Yeah.
So you can call 911 for that. If it's kids hanging out in the parking lot, you can call our non-emergency line, and let us know if there's kids littering or doing burnouts or things like that. And our dispatchers will make some of those decisions as well, whether it's emergency response or not. But
Would it be easier or worthwhile to post a sign
I
with
was
an
just
emergency
thinking
number or something like that, just so people who are there can quickly see that and say, oh, I see that, type the number and make a quick call.
Automatically return too.
Yeah, sure.
Post it, because then you can track hours, if it's frequently happening around 1 AM, then
neighborhood watch sign, here's the number.
take a little drive by.
Photo watch.
Yeah.
We weren't able to successfully collaborate even today to find, identify license plate and track down some people that were.
Yeah, we're definitely in contact with DPW, and,
Yeah.
we work closely together when things happen down there.
Utilized the camera that was installed and were able to get footage. PD has that, so I'm sure they'll follow up.
Anything else for marine discussion? Thank you for your answers.
One thought, Mr. Chair, I know we talked, maybe this was last year or not, but are we ready as we get into the busier season to have the trolley kind of, like we just talked about the schoolers, but having some transportation for folks to get off the boat and into town?
So my understanding from talking with Nick last year is that that is a trolley route, that a trolley
Yeah.
does actually have a stop in the vicinity of the marina, and then it is a regular route. And we certainly can make sure that as part of the marina oversight and management, that that's coordinated with Derek. Derek, for what it's worth, also Derek is on the interview committee for the marina manager, so there will be immediate connections to make sure, again, that the marina manager knows who to call if there are issues with the trolley. But thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, just as we get into it.
I believe that route, or that routing, or the front starts like Memorial Day weekend. I think is when that starts. And that's more summer crowd.
Yeah, that's why I brought that down.
Anything else on the marina? Okay, then item number 8 on the agenda, discussion on the RFP for disc golf concession at Bullring Park. Any updates on?
No, we did a third round. Yeah, it was a third round, right around the time Joe Cullen retired. And, we did not get any applicants.
Okay.
So I actually spoke with Bernie today before this, and, we're gonna work on getting it out there again, because technically March only 15, and let's get, the season's kicking off, so we may be able to garner some interest. But yeah, I've been reaching out to other communities and, about what their success involves, and you really need to write, it's almost like you need a